Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into a highly personalized biological preview. We're going to take a journey deep inside this cellular terrain to figure out exactly what's going on in the body of a man in his late 60s, someone who's battling prostate cancer, dealing with prediabetes, and fighting this profound, lingering post-radiation fatigue. We're approaching this with a lot of empathy for sure, but also with a rigorous, uncompromising focus on the actual cellular science. So let's jump right in.
Oh, there are so many yummy vegetarian options out there. You could try like lentil soup, veggie burgers, tofu stir fry. The possibilities are endless.
I want you to really picture this man. He is just exhausted. He's enduring the heavy toll of prostate cancer. He's managing a clinical diagnosis of prediabetes. And on top of all that, he's fighting a post-radiation fatigue that just stubbornly refuses to lift. Imagine that level of sheer physical exhaustion. The frustration of sitting in a dimly lit room at 2 a.m., holding your head in your hands, feeling like you've literally tried everything, but nothing is actually working. You're treating symptoms, sure, but you're not healing. Well, today, we're going to explain exactly why that is. It's kind of fascinating to look at how conventional treatments frame this whole reality. When you go through radiation therapy, yes, it absolutely targets the localized malignancy, but it also acts as a massive systemic stressor. Think of it like carpet bombing an entire city just to stop a single criminal. Sure, you might get your target, but you leave the city's power grid, its fuel lines, and its immune infrastructure totally annihilated. You're left with a severely compromised cellular terrain. To really figure out how to rebuild from that kind of damage, we actually need to look back about 160 years. Back in the 1850s, a scientist named Claude Bernard made this groundbreaking observation. He discovered that the stability of our internal environment, what we now call the cellular terrain, is what actually dictates our overall health. So it's not just about what attacks us from the outside, it's all about the condition of the environment on the inside. Let's move forward a bit to the 1860s and see how this idea really builds. Antoine Béchamp took Bernard's work even further and established what's known as terrain theory. He basically said the primary cause of disease is in us, always in us. And honestly, the easiest way to wrap your head around this is the fish tank analogy. If you have a fish tank and the fish gets sick, conventional medicine tries to drug the sick fish. But terrain theory, it says no, you don't drug the fish, you clean the water. The internal environment is that water. The terrain is literally everything. And here's the crucial point. This wasn't just some fringe idea. Even Louis Pasteur, the famous pioneer of germ theory, eventually realized how profound this truth was. In his dramatic 1895 deathbed confession, Pasteur famously admitted, Bernard was right. The germ is nothing. The terrain is everything. I mean, that is a massive paradigm shift. It completely changes the focus to restoring the environment where your cells actually live. This whole historical buildup culminates beautifully with Dr. Otto Warburg, who actually won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1931. Warburg discovered that damaged mitochondria are what create disease. Basically, when your cellular power plants fail, your cells can't produce ATP anymore, and ATP is literally the energy currency of life. He called this energy bankruptcy, and it leads straight to chronic inflammation and just this massive cascade of repair failures. This 160 years of history, it's the absolute foundation of everything we're about to talk about. So let's fast forward to the modern era. Dr. Trevor Bachmeyer, who's a former physician with 30 years of clinical experience and now operates as an independent health researcher, discovered, isolated, and identified the root causes that drive virtually every chronic disease. He built this framework by standing on the shoulders of that 160 years of foundational terrain science, from Bernard all the way to Warburg, and applied it to modern clinical observation. He calls this framework the 3 biological failures. Let's break down exactly how these 3 biological failures are showing up in this man's specific situation. First up, we have the fire, which is systemic inflammation. His immune system is basically stuck in the on position, which jams up cellular receptors and causes an immense amount of friendly fire. Second, there's the broken fuel line or insulin resistance. This is what's driving the prediabetes. His cells are completely deaf to insulin, so they're literally starving to death while swimming in a bloodstream that is absolutely flooded with fuel. And finally, the dead batteries, the ATP shortage. The radiation caused massive mitochondrial damage. These mitochondria are leaking jagged fragments, they're failing to produce energy, and that is exactly what's driving that crippling ongoing post-radiation fatigue. Okay, so how do we actually reverse this triad of failure? Well, the answer lies in cellular signaling. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we need to define what a peptide is. Think of a peptide as a short chain of amino acids that acts like a biological signaling molecule. It fits into your cellular receptors exactly like a key fitting into a lock, and it delivers highly precise instructions to repair and regenerate. It is such a profound realization when you discover that biological repair is actually possible, that you can hand your body the exact key it needs to unlock its own healing. When we look at the failing terrain, we see the systemic inflammation driving moderate hypertension, insulin resistance fueling the prediabetes, and ATP depletion causing that profound post-radiation fatigue. But imagine what happens when that terrain is repaired. You'd see those inflammatory pathways completely clearing out. You'd see the cellular receptors becoming sensitive again, finally allowing fuel to get inside. You'd see those mitochondria waking up, regenerating, and pumping out the energy you desperately need. But here's the catch. You can't just throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks. Biological repair requires a very strict sequential process. You absolutely must establish the correct metabolic signals before your body can effectively use any structural repair materials. So, step 1 is terrain clearing, removing the biological squatters and hitting the brakes on those inflammatory triggers. Step 2 is the metabolic override, normalizing blood sugar and drastically lowering fasting insulin to fix that broken fuel line. And only then can you move to step 3, cellular battery rebuild, triggering the mitochondrial support needed to finally resolve that energy bankruptcy. Now, everything we've covered so far represents exactly 95% of what you need to understand. You got the history, you know the mechanisms behind the 3 failures, and you understand the exact biological sequence required to reverse them. But here's the tough reality. Understanding alone is not implementation. Just knowing about this 95% is not going to fix your cellular terrain. To actually transform your biology, you need the missing 5%. And what is that? It's the specific peptide names, the exact dosing schedules, safe delivery mechanisms, trusted sourcing, and precise titration frequencies. That highly sensitive, exact dosing intelligence is securely isolated in personalized, separate educational briefs. That intelligence is yours, and it's the exact thing that separates theoretical understanding from an actual physical biological transformation. And that brings us to the core philosophy here at Starve the Sugar. As an independent biological intelligence research firm, our mission is incredibly simple. We do not heal you. We restore the conditions under which your body was always designed to heal itself. Imagine looking in the mirror and feeling this profound sense of relief and peace, knowing that your biological engine is finally repairing itself from the inside out, all because you removed the interference and gave it the right signals. Look, your body isn't broken. You're simply inflamed, insulin-resistant, and energy bankrupt. And the best part? All 3 of those are reversible. The question isn't whether you have time to fix this. The question is, how much longer can you afford not to? Take action today. Email mike@starvethesugar.com with the exact subject line, prostate cancer, prediabetes, high blood pressure, implementation report request, to claim your personalized blueprint. The science is there, the sequence is there. So ask yourself this: if your terrain has been the problem all along, what is your life going to look like when you finally give it the exact signals it needs to rebuild? It is time to find out.